welcome to the monthly show Maunalua Past, Present, Future. My name is Matt Glei, and I'm on the board of our Firewise community in Hawaii Kai. I'm also a trained Firewise Home Ignition Zone Assessor and a Community Wildfire Ambassador. Tonight's talk story topic is Engaging Community in Firewise Efforts, Part 1. My guest tonight is Mike Walker. He's the State Protection Forester, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. He's also the State Firewise Liaison. Mike, tell us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, so I work at the administrative branch of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. And the administrative branch is the supporting branch for all of the operational branches across the state. So I do trainings, I work on the safety program, I write policies, I write grants, I manage grant accounts and reporting, and every now and then I get to go out and put the wet stuff on the red stuff. So.
It sounds like a fun job.
Yeah.
Keeps you in shape too. So, Mike, why are we here? What's the problem?
Well, most folks don't really know that Hawaii has a significant wildland fire issue. Ever since the decline of the plantation agricultural system in the 1960s, we've seen a dramatic increase in the frequency of fires and the size of the fires. We can annually burn a percentage of our land that's equivalent or sometimes even greater than a lot of our neighbors in the western states.
Wow.
99% of the fires that we have here in Hawaii are human caused. Most of those are accidental, people parking and keeping their cars running on tall grass or operating welding equipment or other hot work with a fire kind of getting out of hand from that. Sure. And then some of the fires are arson, so they could be up to 30%.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Scary. So we use the term Firewise in our title. What is Firewise and why is it important?
So the Firewise program is a program that was created by the NFPA, the National Fire Prevention Association, and it's a program designed to help homeowners and communities keep their homes safe, particularly if they're living in the wildland-urban interface. That's an area that has the developed community urban infrastructure right adjacent to a wild area that's fire prone.
Right. So what is wildfire resiliency and how do we do that?
So we try and teach folks that they can live adjacent to areas that are fire prone safely and just by doing a few things around their homes and their communities.
So next we're going to talk about home assessments. Could you cue slide 1, please? So in doing a home assessment, if you could describe what's going on with these zones around your house.
So yeah, the zone directly around your house, probably within 6 to 15 feet, is very important. You want to remove vegetation, particularly vegetation that's right adjacent to your house, because that can create it's a fuel source for the fire to spread the fire from the wildland interface to your home. It's extremely important to kind of keep that 4 to 6 foot area around your home free of vegetation. And then moving out beyond that, we're not looking at creating barren landscapes around people's homes. You can have trees and shrubs and other plants. It's just important that any tree that you have, you want to remove any of the limbs up to about 10 foot on the tree those kind of lower limbs or vines and things we call those ladder fuels,
Right.
and that allows the fire that's on the ground to spread up into the tree canopy. And you just want to make sure that the canopy of the trees aren't really connecting with each other, because if the fire does get up into the crown of the tree, it can spread horizontally at that point too. And then out and beyond that, there's different spacings of trees and vegetation that you want to maintain going out into the more unmanaged areas outside of your yard.
Could we look at the next slide, please? So one of the first things is basically don't start accidental fires. You mentioned earlier the whole idea of driving your car and stopping on brush that's touching the underside of the car. And I know a lot of fires get started that way. People don't think about it. You know, where you do your grilling, where you use power tools, gasoline powered tools out in the wild, it's important. Preparing your home and yard, which you just described, and then making sure your family's ready. If you have to evacuate, do you know where to go, and do you know what to bring with you, and how to do it quickly? In some fires on the mainland, people have had 5 minutes of warning to leave their house. The best way is to work with your neighbors, because for every house that prepares their home and yard, it reduces the fire risk for the entire community.
Yeah.
And that's important. And then stay informed. This is a very simple 5-step story that says this is what you do.
Yeah, and it's another great thing about the Firewise community is not only are they teaching you about how to maintain the vegetation around your home and remove leaves from your gutters and look at the construction materials of your home, but it also brings communities together. It gives people a communication network to talk about fire in the community and create phone lists and things, and really, people can be mindful of kupuna or people with disabilities that may not be able to evacuate on their own. So it really ties people together, and it keeps people informed about their home and their neighbors.
Absolutely. So one of the steps that we talk about is a community wildfire risk assessment. You've taken part in several of those here in Hawaii. Could you maybe give us a broad description of what that's about?
Yeah, it does a little bit of the home construction. It looks at the types of roofs that are in the community and what type of fire rating they have. It looks at the widths of the roads in the community. Are they wide enough for the fire trucks to drive through and also allow people safe egress from the community? It looks at the number of fire hydrants and if they can get the data on the water pressure of those hydrants, and also any escape routes for the community. It's always good to have more than one, particularly if one is blocked by a fire.
Absolutely. Well, and we've certainly seen a number of communities in Hawaii that have one way in and one way out in general. So those are especially, need to be especially prepared, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah.
So what is a Firewise community? And how many are there in Hawaii and on Oahu? Is there another slide we should go to? Yes.
Yeah, currently we have 14. I think the majority of those are on Hawaii Island, and the oldest ones are over there. We've got 5 more in development. Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization received a grant from the United States Forest Service to grow the Firewise communities and also create a Firewise community network where each community can then share their knowledge and lessons learned from the development of their community to enable these newer communities to get up to speed faster.
Absolutely. Yeah, and actually there are periodic meetings between all the communities on Zoom, et cetera. So
yeah. And currently we have one Firewise Community Mariners Cove
Yes.
in Hawaii Kai, which
Yes.
you're a part of.
Yes.
And you're also a home assessor as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're doing home assessments not only in my community, but in other parts of Oahu. There are other communities coming along here. One is Waialaiki 5, and there's been interest from many other communities. So I'm imagining we're going to see 4 or 5 on Oahu before we're done.
Yeah, it was after the Lahaina fire, we had previously planned a meeting about Firewise communities on leeward Oahu in Nanakuli months before Lahaina occurred, and the turnout at that meeting was about 100 people in person and another 100 people online.
Wow.
So I think the turnout at that meeting probably was greater than the sum of all other Firewise community meetings we've had in the history of the program. So
Probably true. Is there another slide there? So one of the things that we've looked at here, in this is the Hawaii Kai community, a zoom in on, but you can see the entire island of Oahu and where fires have occurred and how big they were. And so there are a number of fires that have happened on Oahu, and it's hard to imagine. This is, I believe, from 2000 to 2020. And the sort of greenish areas there are large fires, meaning the one in Kalama Valley was about 80 acres. And we've had other 27 sort of acre fires and stuff. So it's definitely real. It's definitely here. So in reality, though, we talk about fuel reduction and defensible space, but what does that really mean? How do you do that?
So fuel reduction can mean a variety of things. You can do chemical and mechanical reduction of fuels. You know, trim your grass with weed whackers. Some folks use herbicides to control fuels. Basically, you're reducing the height and the density of the fuel that's available to burn for the fire, so that it will either slow the fire behavior down or, you know, reduce it immensely.
So that's fuel reduction.
That's fuel reduction.
Yeah.
So you can also do fuel conversion as well, where you can change the fuel type. So if you have a grassland that's kind of repeatedly growing year after year, one way to deal with that is to plant different vegetation like trees or shrubs that can shade out the grass. And particularly if you can plant plants like succulents or native vegetation like naupaka, something that has a little bit more moisture content in it and doesn't dry out as readily as a grass would. It'll carry less fire, and you might even stop it.
Well, maybe we should look at the next slide, and I believe that there are some plants there. These describes a bunch of native Hawaiian plants and plants that are unlikely to burn. We're not all looking for the Phoenix, Arizona desert look, especially since we live in Hawaii, but there are a lot of things that can be placed in our yards, and the Ready, Set, Go guide and a lot of the material from Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization lists the ones that have been recommended for this kind of use. So in talking about defensible space, we've talked about fire breaks. So if you could describe a fire break and then I can talk a little bit about what it takes to maintain our fire break. So.
Yeah, we use two terms really. We use the term fire break, and then we also use the term fuel break.
Okay.
And so a fire break is basically the complete removal of any flammable vegetation from an area. And usually you want to design a fire break to the width of the fire break to be about 2 to 3 times what the height of the nearest fuel type is.
Okay.
So if you have 6-foot guinea grass growing, you want to make sure that you have a 12 to 18 foot wide fire break in order to make sure that fire, when that rolls through, is not going to jump over to the other side. But it also really allows, that space really allows access for firefighters to come in and safely do their work of fire suppression.
Right.
So not every fire break is going to hold. You know, if you have hurricane force winds or 55-mile-an-hour winds or so, that fire break isn't going to do much good no matter how wide it is, because some fires can spot miles down the road, you know, if the wind is high enough and the fire is intense enough.
And we've certainly seen that in the American West.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other term we use is fuel break, where it's just a reduction of the fuels or a change in the fuel type.
Right.
Like I talked about earlier, where you're either taking that 6-foot guinea grass and chopping it down to less than a foot or lower, or you're converting the vegetation type to something less flammable.
Right. And I think you mentioned napaka and other sorts of plants like that earlier.
Yeah, on the access road to Waianae Kai, we got a Forest Service grant that we're working with the Waianae Mountain Watershed Partnership Plan to put in a shaded fuel break using native species. And that break has been tested in fires in 2018 and 2020, where the fire burned all the way up to it and then slowed down as it was sort of heating up those plantings, and firefighters were able to catch the fire right there at the break.
Amazing. That's amazing. And I can speak perhaps to some of the next slides, which are going to show the kind of work it takes to actually maintain a fire break once you've cleared it. So next slide, please. So this is a picture of some of the fires that occurred in our valley in 2017 and 2018. So you can see it's wild land. There's a lot of slopes back there, not a lot of access and so forth. And then this was the most impressive picture I've seen from those fires, which is pretty deep in the valley. And you see the firefighters there, and there was a lot of activity going on then. It was pretty scary to people because people live along this road and nearby. So next slide. So literally every year we've created a workday. This is our workday experience from this year in May, and we actually invited Team Rubicon to come and help us. So we had a number of volunteers from Team Rubicon. I believe it was over 30 people. And next slide.
Matt, can you explain who Team Rubicon is?
Oh, Team Rubicon is an organization mostly former military, but basically they get involved in response to disasters. And so these are folks who show up, they've been trained to use these tools safely. The tools are, you know, the chainsaws and things like that have been well maintained. And they show up, and in a short period of time they were able to clear the entire 1,500 feet. And you can see we had halikoa in there that were pretty big around, and we ended up filling 3 of these 40 cubic yard dumpsters in a day and a half. That's a lot of vegetation to get out of the way. And as you can see on the left there, basically this was an old road, but the stuff on the left was essentially halikoa and guinea grass and California grass and things like that. So in a day and a half, they cleared the entire 1,500 feet of that. And just to the left of behind those walls you see are a bunch of homes. So these are the homes that are closest to where some of the fires occurred back in the day. Next slide. Next slide, please. More volunteers. And again. And so this is Team Rubicon, where they set up. They had tents. We had additional tents for water and shade. And it was a really busy day and a half. And they really worked hard. It was hot out there, as you can imagine. And that was May. Imagine doing it now.
Yeah.
So let's see. Are there any more slides about the fire break? No. Okay. So let's talk a little bit. You travel around the state. You've seen a lot of different places. Have you noticed that the vegetation is drier?
Yeah, we are coming into a climate cycle that's known as El Nino.
Yes.
And in Hawaii, that really means that we're going to be experiencing not only dry seasons, but also drier wet seasons as well. So we started shifting into El Nino somewhere in the spring, and as a result of that, the entire state is in an area called, or a category called abnormally dry.
Right.
And then there are more pockets of moderate drought, and then there's
Next slide, please.
more pockets of extreme drought. So we can see here, this is the U.S. Drought Monitor showing what I was just describing there. And that darker orange color is severe drought. And particularly West Maui is really being impacted by the drought. So everything is really dry right now, and to the point where some of the grasses, they look gray rather than just sort of that yellow that we're normally associate with dry grass.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. I was surprised when I saw this slide the first time that basically everything is abnormally dry, and a lot of it is moderate and even severe drought. It was just a little shocking, to say the least.
Yeah, and we're probably looking at a dry winter coming up here too. So
Because of El Nino.
we're not going to get a whole lot of relief. We're really hoping that we're going to get some rains in the fall. We got a little bit today, but some of the fires, particularly the Olinda fire on Maui, upcountry Maui, it still has hot spots that are smoldering. And they're not going to go out until we get some solid rain on those. So we're just praying for rain right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a little bit of rain at night doesn't necessarily solve that problem, does it?
No, they've got about less than an inch of rain over there, and you really need a deep soaking rain because some of these fires are burning underground. They're burning in the root systems of the old dead trees there, and any kind of wind can, fuel them and make them pop up. And if there's any fuel around them left, they'll start to show active flames.
Well, I might mention that one of the things that we've seen as I'm doing home assessments is I give each one of the homeowners that we assess this Ready, Set, Go guide, which is available online from HawaiiWildfire.org, which is, and you'll see that in a little bit, but it's an excellent book because it really describes everything you've talked about, which is what's the problem, what can you do about it, and then how can you enlist help from your neighbors in terms of making it. So you don't have to have 1,000 homes that all agree on doing this. You can have a Firewise community that's anywhere from 8 to 2,500 homes. And so, and I would guess most of them are in the 400 to 500 range of the ones I'm aware of. But on the mainland, of course, there's over 2,100 Firewise communities.
Oh, is that right?
In USA, which is amazing. And as you can imagine, the American West has been fighting this a long time.
Yeah. And one of the benefits that other states, Firewise communities have in other states is that they do get a reduction on their homeowners insurance if they're a Firewise community. Yeah. So we would really like to see that happen here in Hawaii. Give folks a little bit of a break because they're the ones doing the right things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, good. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mike, and I'm glad you're here. You've seen a lot of these things happen in Hawaii, but I want to also give a lot of thanks to Nani Barreto and the entire Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. They're located on the Big Island, but they actually are responsible not only for Hawaii, but a great deal of the South Pacific. And so they actually are starting programs elsewhere. And The reality is that they've done amazing work. If you go to this website, hawaiiwildfire.org, you can download that Ready, Set, Go and a lot of other materials. We're all actively in each of our counties working with the local fire departments, and they've been extremely supportive in this process. Once again, the problem was spotted first on the Big Island, but it's going to be everywhere, the problem in the future. So really want to thank you for being here, and thank Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization and all the help that they do. When you become a Firewise community, they come in, they rope the right people together, you know, folks from forestry, folks from the fire department, as well as people in this organization, and do the community risk assessment. And it takes several hours, and it's extremely worthwhile. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that here on Oahu as we go forward. So I want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Matt.
And thanks to Ōlelo as well for sponsoring this. Take care.
Aloha.
Now they can play music.